Hello everyone, welcome on my podcast. Today I have a real treat for you. Stoicism, living a better life, overcoming challenges, feeling grateful, and mixing everything with achieving great goals. Today my guest is William B. Irvine, who is a professor of philosophy at Wright State University. We will talk about his book, A Stoic Challenge, and Stoicism itself. Let's dive in. A quick information for my Polish listeners. On my website you will find a full translation of my conversation with Bill. Krótka informacja dla moich polskich słuchaczy. Na mojej stronie edytazens.pl/stoicyzm znajdziecie pełne tłumaczenie mojej rozmowy z Billem. Welcome everyone, it's Edita Science here. I'm a psychologist and a trainer, and I'm really excited to be able to speak with William B. Irvine, philosopher and a Stoic. And today we will talk about Stoicism and being an achiever. Hello Bill, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to have a chat with you.
It will be great, I think. Lately I read your amazing book, The Stoic Challenge, and I was thinking about questions I can ask you. Some of them keep coming back to me. Being a Stoic means that you are happy with everything you have in your life. Every cloud has a silver lining. Every challenge can be a lesson. Is it possible to be a Stoic and an achiever in terms of mindset? What if I want to be a Stoic, but at the same time, I set really, really ambitious goals?
Okay, let me unpack your question here. So a Stoic doesn't mean you're going to be happy with everything in your life. So a Stoic can have periods of unhappiness. So what Stoicism is, it's a strategy for avoiding negative emotions that you would experience, negative emotions that would detract from your happiness. Those negative emotions, despite your efforts, I mean, it's an ongoing battle. It isn't like they suddenly just go away. Your mind is full of voices and ideas, and you can be lying there trying to fall asleep, and something in your mind reminds you of something bad somebody did 10 years ago, and then you can spend the next 3 hours tossing and turning. That's just being human, that happens. What the Stoics do is they try to find a way to prevent those negative emotions from taking control of your life. And so the goal is a life with as few negative emotions. Now, of course, those emotions are an obstacle for you becoming a happy person. There is no guarantee that you will be a happy person, but it minimizes that obstacle to your happiness. And the other thought was that this idea of can you be an achiever? If you look at the Stoics themselves, they were great achievers. So Marcus Aurelius was the emperor. So if you talk about achieving, that was the ultimate achievement of his time. Seneca, who's actually one of my favorite Stoics, was not only a philosopher, but he was the equivalent of an investment banker of his time. He was profoundly wealthy. He was also one of the most successful and significant playwrights of his time, and he had a side interest in science. So again, a very high achiever. And the interesting thing about achieving is if you want to be an achiever, you have to have a capacity for dealing with setbacks and for experiencing failure. And instead of letting the failure break you, you have to learn how to bounce back from the failures you experience. So if you tell me your goal is to be a high achiever, then I would say, well, then Stoicism is a very good thing for you to explore.
Yes, this question came to me because of the image of a real Stoic I had previously in my life. In Polish, we have a phrase, a Stoic calm. that describes a person who's always okay with everything that happens. It's quite close to misconception that Stoic wouldn't need anything more than he had.
The interesting thing is, it's a very good skill to have, is to appreciate everything you have. And at the same time, it's okay to desire more than what you
Yes,
already have, but to realize what you already have is probably pretty amazing. There's a good chance that you take what you already have for granted, which means
exactly.
it doesn't give you the amount of happiness that it could and should be giving you. So what do? It's at the same time as you're learning to appreciate all the things you have in your life, you're still looking for other things. And like I say, the Stoics were very interested in doing stuff. So it isn't just you sat there in a state of happiness, you did
Yeah.
stuff. And in particular, they thought you had a social duty to try to make the lives of the people around you better, to try to improve those lives in a variety of ways. They weren't just fat and happy sitting there
Exactly.
and enjoying life. Instead, they were trying to make the most, trying to appreciate the life they had, trying to have a positive impact on the lives of other people.
So, is there any difference between a phrase, a stoic calm, and a real stoicism?
So in my own, and I don't know if this comes through in the Polish translation, but I distinguish between Stoicism with an uppercase S letter at the beginning of it, capitalized Stoicism versus lowercase uncapitalized Stoicism.
Yeah.
So that lowercase is just that common conception of what Stoicism is. The uppercase is what it really is, and what Stoicism really is a strategy for avoiding negative emotions. At least that's the psychological component of Stoicism. So when something bad happens to you, you can allow yourself to get upset. You can allow yourself to get angry. Those are all negative emotions. And then the question is, and what good does that do you? If you
Yeah.
can experience the same setback and say, oh, well, it's a setback for me to work on. And I'm not going to let myself get angry because I'm going to use that energy instead for finding a way to overcome the setback because then I can press ahead with whatever goals or ambitions I have.
So the calm is a product of stoicism. Okay, calm is a main goal for many people. I can personally tell that stoic techniques I know can really help to achieve that. But at the same time, I know that there is a wild, adventurous, excited part of me that is not that stoic. Can I mix those different worlds?
Sure, because as I described toward the end of the Stoic Challenge, one of the things as a practicing Stoic you're going to be doing is undertaking what I call Stoic adventures. You're going to
Mm,
be doing things that are difficult to do or things that you find uncomfortable to do simply because they are difficult, simply because you find them uncomfortable. It's part of your Stoic training. So to go on some kind of trip, some kind of adventure that has an element of the unknown, a trip in which you're going to grow as a person by going on it is it's not only compatible with Stoicism, but it's what a Stoic would say you should be doing. You should be doing things in life where you risk failure
mhm.
because now they shouldn't be catastrophic failures because that's the end of the game. But you should learn how to experience failure and you should walk away saying, you know, what would really be failure is if I weren't even trying new things out of fear of failing. That's much worse than failure itself. Failure, if you experience it and you learn from it and you press on a better, more competent, more confident person than you were, that isn't really failure at a personal level. It's called growth instead of failure.
Yeah, lesson. Yeah.
But most people, they're limited in what they can do in life because of a fear of failure.
Hmm. So, how can I tell that I am living a stoic life? What would be a good evidence for that?
To be a practicing Stoic, One thing is, and in the book I describe various psychological techniques. The Stoics were the preeminent psychologists of their time, and they have some basic techniques that you can use in order to prevent yourself from experiencing negative emotions like anger, like hatred, like envy, like regret. Um, and so one question is, are you routinely using those techniques in your life? One of them is what's called negative visualization,
Yeah,
where
my favorite.
yeah, mine too, and it's easy to do. And what you do is you look at the things in your life that you probably take for granted, and then you imagine one of them suddenly missing for whatever reasons, you being deprived of it. It could be your job, it could be a relationship, it could be some aspect of your health. So you don't dwell on the loss of those things, but you allow yourself briefly to imagine losing them. And then the interesting thing is it has the effect of making you truly appreciate them for a time. Then it wears off. You can do it again in the future. So as a practicing Stoic, one of the things you'll be doing is you will be using that and other psychological techniques. As a practicing Stoic, you will find you responding differently to life's setbacks. Okay, if you're a functioning human being, there are going to be setbacks. Maybe you run out of toothpaste. Maybe you get in a car crash. Maybe, all sorts of things can happen. And if you're a practicing Stoic, when you encounter one of those setbacks, instead of just becoming angry and upset, instead, you actually perk up a bit. You're thinking, oh, this is a setback for me to work on. This is a test to me, and I can pass this test. If instead of just getting angry and upset, I come up with a great way to work around this setback and to overcome it, and I keep my calm as I do that. And so it's a strange thing because I know the COVID-19 pandemic that we're currently experiencing. My initial reaction to it when they said we're starting lockdown, so you have to
Yeah,
basically stay where you live with a limited number of people, go out for groceries. My reaction was not to get upset. My reaction was, oh, this is a wonderful Stoic challenge for me to be working
exactly.
on. It's just paradoxical and it sounds strange, but once you get into it, you realize, there's a possibility that I can take this experience that many, many people regard simply as a negative experience, and I can use it as a chance to explore. So one of the things my wife and I did is we got bicycles. We've been
Right.
exploring our neighborhood, and this wouldn't have happened otherwise. It's a chance to grow as a human being. It's a chance to develop relationships. It's got a silver lining, but unless you look for silver linings, you aren't going to see them.
Yeah.
Once you start looking for them, you'll find them all over the place.
Exactly. The COVID-19 is really the biggest setback and the greatest challenge I can imagine. Of course, it is a problem. Of course, it's dangerous for many people, but still, you can find some silver lining
Yeah.
if you want to.
And even though, and of course there are some people who have died of it, so it is a very serious thing, and I don't mean to play that down, but as life setbacks go, um, it's a fairly minor setback. And to put it into historical perspective,
Exactly. Yeah.
during World War II, if you were in London, it wasn't a question of somebody saying you have to stay in your apartment. It was instead somebody saying each night you have to leave your apartment. This was during the Blitz of London. You
Yeah.
have to leave your apartment. You have to spend the night underground in a tunnel with hundreds of other people. You have to sleep on the ground next to these other people. And if you don't get bombed in the night, then the next morning you have to leave the tunnel and go back to your apartment, which might still be there, or it might be in rubble if it's gotten bombed. So again, this historical perspective You realize the pandemic is a significant event. But on the Richter scale they use to measure earthquakes, on the Richter scale of setbacks, this would be, I don't know, maybe a 4, on a scale that goes to 10. And I know some people have suffered terribly in this, but of the challenges life can throw your way, it could be a lot worse. And that's, again, even doing that is finding the silver lining of just thinking this could be much worse.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? We've got internet too. So here I am spending this
Oh,
talking
really?
to a woman right now in Poland, right? Which is something that
Yeah.
20 years ago would have been inconceivable, but now it's possible. I have the library of the world. I don't even have to go to a library to get whatever book I want. I can get it online. We're just a very pampered generation. We're used to everything being easy. So when things do become hard, then we really feel it. A Stoic is going to be, when things get easy, that's when a Stoic is going to get nervous. Stoic's going to think, you know what, I'm being fattened up for some reason here, and I gotta get strong. So like I said, part of Stoic training is for you to go out and do things that you know are going to be difficult to do, things that you know are going to present you with challenges you didn't see coming, just so you can stay strong, just so you can keep your ability, your confidence, and your competence in dealing with life's challenges.
So you can tell that Stoic is on search for challenges.
Yes, that's one aspect. I would call that one important aspect of Stoicism, is that it's like athletic training. If you told me you wanted to be in the Olympics, I would say you got to do two things. You got to train a lot, and you got to find yourself a coach. And the coach you find is not going to be somebody who just says, "Oh, do the easy thing." The coach
Yeah.
is going to be somebody who says, you were supposed to, we were planning to run 5 miles today. We're going to do 7 instead. How come, coach? Why would we do that? Because you want to win the race, don't you? You want to be strong. Well, then you have to invest the effort into becoming that way. And you can look at life that way. And, there are people who go through life constantly pampered with no challenges, and a Stoic will look at them and feel sorry. Because
Yeah.
if a challenge does come along, they will be utterly unprepared. Here's an even more dramatic way to do it. Now, I would not consider climbing Mount Everest, the highest mountain. I would not do that. I mean, that's just craziness. But here's the thing: if you've done it, and then you're back down in the normal world, and somebody comes up to you and presents you with a challenge, you're going to be able to say, "Yeah, I think I could probably do that if I wanted to." And in the corner of your mind, you could say, "I climbed to Mount Everest after all." So
Yes.
these other challenges seem minimal. But if you've never undertaken a significant challenge, and even worse, if you haven't done that because of fear of failure, then you're not going to have the confidence. And somebody's going to ask whether you could do a certain thing, and you're going to say, "Gee, I don't know. It's nervous. What if I fail? What if it's hard?" And it gives you a
What if I
different
don't
approach
like
to life.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a different approach to life. You should be doing some things you don't like. At the same time, you should be doing things you do like, and you should be doing them in an appreciative way. The fact that you can take a walk is
Yes.
a wonderful gift, and yet so many people don't do it, or they spend the walk just worrying about their daily problems instead of looking at the world around them, listening to the world around them, thinking about what they see. And it can be a completely different experience.
Before I ask you my last question, I want to acknowledge you for your work. You fill your books with wisdom and storytelling. It's hard to stop reading your book, and nearly impossible to stop thinking about Stoicism. So thank you so much for your work, for everything you do. It's
Oh, you're very
really
welcome.
so. Let's get to the final question. My final question is, what is the first thing I should do to live a life like a Stoic?
First thing you should do is you should attempt to do negative visualization, and it's easy to do. And again, it's described uh, in the Stoic Challenge and in another book. I'm not sure it's translated into Polish, but called Guide to the Good Life. And
Yeah, that's on my reading list. Yes.
okay, so simple to do. Think about something that's very important to you. Can be your job, can be your home, can be a relationship. Uh, allow yourself to have a thought about that thing suddenly disappearing from your life. You go out somewhere, you go out on a walk and you come back and your house is burned down, or a storm has destroyed your house. Relationships, friendships come to an end. Relationships come to an end too. And you don't want to dwell on that. You just want to think for 3 seconds about the possibility of that happening. And then look for the impact that has if you return to your house and your house is still there. It changes it. Or if you see the longtime friend, and you just imagine that something has happened to end the friendship, and then you realize the friendship is still part of your life. And you will very quickly know, you'll see. I guess there are people who don't, but most people see the power of this stoical thinking on the quality of their life.
Yeah, I love the mantra I use very often, especially when I have my kids around me. This too shall pass. And I think that I will blink one day and my babies will be grown ups. I think that this is a part of Stoic thinking, right? This too shall pass.
Yep, these are the good old days. And it may not seem like that sometimes. You know, kids give you all sorts of challenges with their behavior, their development. But there will come a time in your life when you will look back to these very days and wish you could be living them again. So, you know what? While they're here, enjoy them, savor them to the fullest, because they're going to go away and they're
I
not coming back. But that makes life just so much more, it's more deep enjoyment of life. Whereas a lot of parents just take it for granted. Yeah, these are my kids. Yeah, I have to do things for them. So that's what's sad is they take it for granted.
thank you so much, Bill, for our conversation. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for inviting me.